ऑल राइट, सो मेरे साथ है शिखर सेठी जी फ्रॉम HDFC AMC एंड बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक जो कि आई थिंक प्रीटी मच एवरीबडी इन द इक्विटी मार्केट्स हर समय वही चेस करने की कोशिश करते रहते हैं, विच इज मोमेंटम। मोमेंटम इन्वेस्टिंग की बात करेंगे। नॉट अ वेरी इजी थिंग टू डू, बट आई बिलीव कि HDFC AMC has come up with something that makes it easier for a lot of people to make money through HDFC AMC's momentum investing index का एक पोर्टफोलियो है, ETF है। we'll get to know the details of it बहुत अच्छे क्लैरिटी से। तो सर, बिफोर वी गेट इनटू कि वो एग्जैक्टली क्या चीज है, वो क्या प्रोडक्ट है, आई वुड वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड कि ये होती क्या है। पहले एक व्यूअर्स के लिए कैन वी हैव अ ब्रॉड ओवरव्यू, व्हाट इज मोमेंटम इन्वेस्टिंग?
Sure. Thanks, Vishu. So, before we even talk about momentum, let's actually talk about something that we hear more in our day to day life and we are familiar with. We'll talk about trends. So, in our personal life, we are sort of experiencing trends almost all the time. We are, keeping on top of what is happening latest in fashion, food, restaurants, recreation. Everything is like we are sort of following trends with what other people are doing. Very often we'll experience one particular trend और फिर वो trend बदल जाती है and we also shift then to the new trend, right? So जैसे अपना out of investment life we are following trends. Momentum investing का खासियत है that it also follows trends but within the stock market. So what this type of investing tries to do, it wants to buy stocks which have high momentum. Basically, that means that they have shown strong recent past performance. और यहाँ पे आइडिया क्या है, यहाँ पे premise ये है कि when a stock, the tendency of a stock, not a guarantee, but tendency of the stock is to keep going in the direction of the recent trend. So that means कि अगर अभी stock uptrend में है, generally वो uptrend continue करता है, right? Again, stressing it's not a certainty, there is no guarantee, but historically through time, this is what we have observed. Ki when a stock is moving in a particular direction, it tends to keep moving in that direction. वो trend चलती रहती है. That is what is momentum investing.
राइट। तो हाउ एग्जैक्टली सर डू यू आइडेंटिफाई कि इसका मोमेंटम में ये है, एंड दिस इज अ पॉजिटिव मोमेंटम, दिस इज अ नेगेटिव मोमेंटम, कुछ उसके अराउंड कुछ फैक्टर्स हैं दैट यू कंसीडर?
हाँ जी, so let me just take you through the methodology of the Nifty 200 Momentum 30 Index. So just for the viewers to set up the context, HDFC is coming up with the HDFC Nifty 200 Momentum 30 Index Fund. This is a passively managed strategy, right? And it will be tracking the Nifty 200 Momentum 30 Index. तो ये इंडेक्स का मेथोडोलॉजी, ये सब कुछ NSE Indices Limited उन्होंने प्रिपेयर किया है. दे आर द वंस हु हैव रन द स्ट्रेटजी, एंड अपडेटेड. दे डू द रिव्यू. वील कम टू ऑल दैट. एंड अपना क्या वैल्यू एड इज दैट वी आर गोइंग टू बी ट्रैकिंग दिस इंडेक्स. So from here on, everything that I say is going to be referencing this index, which has been created by NSE Indices Limited, right? So coming back to your question कि momentum को कैसे measure करते हैं, right? Simplistically, momentum is sort of measured by looking at the last 6 month and 12-month price return. So very intuitive, easy concept. जो stock ज्यादा बड़ा है, मतलब जिनका दाम ज्यादा बड़ा है, उनका 6 महीने और 12 मंथ का रिटर्न ज्यादा अच्छा होगा, राइट? एंड कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंगली उनका मोमेंटम अच्छा होगा. So that is what we are looking to see, that how many stocks of all the stocks, right? Which stock has gone up, and that is a high momentum stock, right? And just again, I'll come back to this point, but एक बार हम ये पूरा इंडेक्स का मेथोडोलॉजी भी समझ लेते हैं कि what is happening. Again, the idea is कि the index wants to choose at any given point कि what are the 30 best highest momentum stocks within the universe. यहाँ पे यूनिवर्स है निफ्टी 200. ओके, सो निफ्टी 200 मींस कि योर 100 लार्ज कैप्स एंड 100 मिड कैप्स का यूनिवर्स है. उसमें से इंडेक्स देन सेज कि आई ओनली वांट टू लुक एट F&O एलिजिबल स्टॉक्स. व्हाई? बिकॉज दे आर जनरली क्वाइट लिक्विड. तो फंड मैनेजर को अगर बहुत बड़ा पोजीशन में आइदर इंक्रीज करना है या डिक्रीज करना है, वो लिक्विडिटी रहता है, बिकॉज दीज आर ऑल F&O स्टॉक्स. ठीक है. तो वो आपका फर्स्ट स्टेप है. अब नेक्स्ट स्टेप इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट, जहां पे ये जो अभी डेफिनेशन आपने पूछा और मैंने समझाया, मोमेंटम इज द 6 month रिटर्न एंड द 12 month रिटर्न adjusted फॉर रिस्क. मतलब कि उसमें वी आर लुकिंग फॉर स्टॉक्स जो नॉट ओनली हैव दे गॉन अप, बट वो आराम से दे हैव बीन गोइंग अप एट अ विद लेस वॉलेटिलिटी. सो वी एडजस्ट दीज टू फॉर रिस्क, और 6 महीने और 12 महीने के रिटर्न्स को कंबाइन करते हैं. With this, we get a number called normalized momentum score. So I know it sounds very technical and all of that, but आपको just ये समझना है कि whichever stocks have had good recent returns, उनका by and large momentum score भी high होता है, and they have a higher chance of being selected by the index. तो पूरा NSE indices every 6 months they run this calculation कि पिछले 6 महीने और 12 महीने में जो भी एलिजिबल स्टॉक्स है सबके स्कोर्स निकलते हैं, एंड देन दे आर वेरी रफली चूजिंग द टॉप 30 स्टॉक्स. दैट इज व्हाट यू सी. वील डिस्कस दिस लेटर कि अभी कौन से 30 स्टॉक्स है इंडेक्स में, सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ, बट कंसेप्चुअली यही आइडिया है. एंड लास्ट चीज कि हर स्टॉक में भी वो कैपिंग रखते हैं कि नो वन स्टॉक इज ग्रेटर देन 5%. क्यों? बिकॉज वी डू नॉट वांट अ सिचुएशन कि एक दो स्टॉक ही पूरे इंडेक्स को डोमिनेट करेंगे और फिर इंडेक्स गेट्स लिटिल बिट टू रिस्की. तो अभी क्या किया गया कि अगर कोई स्टॉक बड़ा है, राइट, लाइक सपोज रिलायंस आ गया इंडेक्स में, उसको भी 5% पे कैप किया जाएगा, सो दैट द स्टॉक वेट्स आर सॉर्ट ऑफ मोर इवनली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड अमंग्स द 30 नेम्स. ठीक है. एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट इज कि लाइक आई सेड, हर 6 महीने में this review is done in which the numbers are recalculated. अगर कोई existing stock का performance खराब रहा है उसको निकाला जाता है, and conversely अगर कोई stock बाहर है जो अभी index में नहीं है, right, and जो introduce हो रहा है because उसका momentum, उसके past returns अच्छे हैं, they will be included. So in this 6 months आप सोचो कि portfolio refresh हो रहा है, and it is now being adjusted to the new market conditions.
Right.
So that is it in a nutshell. Obviously इसमें और भी बहुत डिटेल है, but just for the simplicity, looking at your universe of Nifty 200, उसमें से जो भी स्टॉक्स अच्छे परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं उनका जनरली हाई मोमेंटम स्कोर होता है, उनको सिलेक्ट किया जाता है, and this process is done every 6 months.
Right. That sounds awesome, sir. काफी डायनेमिक फंड मेरे को ये साउंड कर रहा है कि एवरी 6 months यू टेक अ स्टॉक की क्या होना है. कुड यू गिव मी अ लिटिल बिट कॉन्टेक्स्ट? जैसे एक तो आई थिंक यू टच्ड अपॉन ब्रीफली कि रिलायंस अभी आया है करंट सिनेरियो में.
नहीं, रिलायंस नहीं आया. आई मेंट
नहीं आया. ओके.
अगर रिलायंस आता तो उसका वेट बहुत ज्यादा होता. सो टू अवॉइड दीज सिचुएशंस वी कीप 5%
का कैप. ऑल राइट. सो कैन यू गिव मी एन आइडिया, जैसे अभी रिसेंट किस क्या सेक्टोरल या स्टॉक ब्रेकअप अभी कैसा कुछ रिसेंट में हुआ है?
हाँ. सो अभी एज ऑफ लेट्स से Jan 31st, so some of the largest stocks were again काफी अलग अलग सेक्टर से थे. Some of the names are like in the portfolio are Tata Motors, REC, Trent, TVS Motor, Coal India, Hindustan Aeronautics. So these are the names again because this fund is tracking an index. It's not कि हमने कुछ call लिया है कि इनको लेना है. The index methodology predetermined has selected these stocks, and we as the fund manager, when the fund is collects money, will also be investing in these same stocks. So stock wise I gave you an idea कि अभी portfolio में क्या है. Sector wise, some of the largest sectors are capital goods, healthcare, and these are and autos. So in fact abhi we'll see this in some time in the presentation also, but वहां पे these sectors are almost 13 to 14 percentage points have a higher weight in the momentum index compared to the 200. So मतलब कि अभी as of right now the index is overweight capital goods, overweight healthcare, overweight auto, and it's conversely it is underweight financial services and IT. So that kind of, and ये काफी large overweight underweights हैं, so we'll also discuss in the risks, but आपको at least idea तो आ जाएगा कि 30 stocks fairly well distributed across many different sectors. But at the moment, overweight is in capital goods, auto, healthcare, underweight financial services and IT.
Right, right. Uh, so, sir, historically, can you give us an idea कि इस टाइप का फंड का अगर रहा है तो मोमेंटम इन्वेस्टिंग में किस टाइप के रिटर्न्स रहते हैं?
हाँ, जरूर. इनफैक्ट आई विल जस्ट शेयर माय स्क्रीन एट दिस पॉइंट. दैट विल हेल्प अस विद द. इनफैक्ट आई जस्ट स्पेंड एक दो और मिनट में जो अभी मैंने sort of verbally बताया ना, वो फटाफट आपको स्लाइड फॉर्म में भी दिखा देता हूँ. एक सेकेंड. आपको स्क्रीन दिखाई दे रहा है?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is what we were discussing. कि अभी you can see, as of 31st Jan, these were your top 10 stocks. So I had mentioned some of them, but आप देख रहे हो कि across a variety of sectors. If you want all 30 names, this is on this slide 9. तो यहाँ पे all the large caps are given, all the mid caps are there. अभी at the moment the portfolio is evenly split in terms of numbers. 15 large cap है, 15 mid cap है. राइट. दिस इज, ये जरूरी नहीं है कि हमेशा 15-15 रहेगा. ये जस्ट अभी बाय चांस है कि 15-15 है. एज एंड व्हेन मार्केट कंडीशंस चेंज, इफ मिड कैप्स आर डूइंग बेटर या लार्ज कैप्स आर डूइंग बेटर, फिर वो अपने आप पोर्टफोलियो विल शिफ्ट इनटू दो सेगमेंट्स. एंड लास्टली, this is what I was saying, कि cap goods, auto, healthcare, almost 20% weight to all these sectors, much higher than Nifty 200. Right?
Yeah.
So, and conversely, IT financial services अभी कम है compared to Nifty 200. So,
Right.
this is just because अभी तक बात थोड़ी theoretical थी कि what is momentum, how is the index, but all these slides are aimed at showing you कि अभी अगर आप फंड में जब NFO close होगा, जब deploy होगा, तो this is the kind of stock and sectors it will be deployed into. Right? Okay. So, okay, now, अच्छा, आपने रिटर्न्स के बारे में पूछा, बट इज इट ओके विथ यू अगर उससे पहले वी जस्ट टॉक अबाउट वन वेरी यूनिक feature of the strategy, which is its dynamic nature?
Sure.
ठीक है. So here we have a few slides. ठीक है, एक स्लाइड पे ज्यादा हम फोकस करेंगे. So I know ये स्लाइड पे लग रहा है कि बहुत डेटा है, बट बहुत सिंपल है. This slide is telling you कि through time, how have the sector weights changed of the momentum index. So you can see कि at the end of 2019, for example, right, momentum index में IT sector नहीं था. But through 2020, right, जब कोविड हुआ तो हम सब वर्क फ्रॉम होम कर रहे थे. उस टाइम पे there was lot of demand for digitization, so on and so forth. IT stocks का परफॉर्मेंस काफी अच्छा रहा. Right, almost in those 6 months वो 50.5% और 37% का रिटर्न रहा. That is why if you see in 2020, IT sector का वेट बढ़ा है, to 16.5%. उसके बाद 21 में और भी अच्छा रिटर्न आया, तो IT का वेट और भी बढ़ा है. After that, in the end, in 21-22, right, जब then IT sector started performing poorly, you can see कि फिर उसको हटा दिया गया momentum index से. Right? So this is one example कि when this strategy, it will not pick the bottom or the top in any of these stocks. वो it's not supposed to. But उसका objective क्या है कि ideally the middle part of the trend, right, जब stock bottom कर चुका है and it still has a strong run up, ideally that is the stage the index wants to get invested in. Right? So because at any given point आपने देखा होगा, right, sometimes large does better than mid, sometimes IT does better than financial services. तो हमेशा सेक्टर्स में बहुत ट्रेंड्स, वेरिएशन, स्टॉक्स में भी वेरिएशन आती रहती है. एंड इट्स द स्ट्रैटेजी इज ओनली लुकिंग एट द पास्ट रिटर्न्स, टू सी व्हाट हैज हाई मोमेंटम, एंड वो फिर अपने आप एडजस्ट कर लेती है. वन लास्ट एग्जांपल, हियर इट्स वेरी क्लियर टू सी. I don't know आप कितने लोगों को याद है, but between 2018 to 2020, the Indian economy was going through a very tough period. There was ILFS crisis, oil prices were high. So generally अपना macro economy काफी, the situation was difficult. Banks were under stress. So the industrials, capital goods, all these kind of sectors they were not doing well, right? In fact, उनका काफी negative performance था. So you can see 2018, 19, 20, these sectors had a very, very small weight in the index. But COVID के बाद, as and when we've had this industrial recovery, industrial stocks, capital goods sector has been doing well. A lot of order inflow, execution, share price appreciation. You can see कि the strategy has adapted. It has increased its weight consistently over these years, and that these kind of adjusting to the future or adjusting to the current market leadership, इसी से वो आउट परफॉर्मेंस की पॉसिबिलिटी अराइज होता है, राइट? सो अगेन मेन टेक अवे फ्रॉम द स्लाइड इज दैट दिस सेक्टर, द स्ट्रैटेजी इज वेरी डायनामिक. जैसे जैसे ही मार्केट में सेक्टर, स्टॉक, साइज सेगमेंट, इन सब चीजों में जैसे चेंज आता है, वन इज डोमिनेटिंग ओवर द अदर्स, ये स्ट्रैटेजी ऑटोमेटिकली रिव्यूज पे इट स्टार्ट्स मूविंग टुवर्ड्स द बेटर परफॉर्मिंग सेक्टर्स with the hope that the momentum will keep continuing and आपका outperformance का potential हो सकता है, right? So speaking of outperformance, Vishu, sorry, we just thought it's better to show that so that लोगों को और अच्छा idea हो जाएगा what is the differentiating factor of this strategy, and also then understanding कि ये outperform क्यों करता है या क्यों कर चुका है. So if we see this chart, right, this is showing us momentum index का performance versus the 200, Nifty 200 and Nifty 50. तो अभी तो definitely last 1, 3, 5, 10, it has comfortably outperformed 250. A lot of those names we saw, in the portfolio, they had pretty strong run-ups in 2023. So that has led to the outperformance. Even if we look, अगर हम financial year wise देखें, right? So अभी तो ठीक है, point to point रिटर्न्स में तो इट वाज वेरी क्लियर कि मोमेंटम इंडेक्स ने आउटपरफॉर्म किया. बट नाउ अगर आप बाय फाइनेंशियल ईयर भी देखोगे, सो सिंस द इंडेक्स के वैल्यूज हैं 2005 से, वहां से अभी तक देयर हैव बीन 18 फुल फाइनेंशियल ईयर्स जिसके पास डेटा, हमारे पास डेटा है. उन 18 साल में से 13 साल द मोमेंटम इंडेक्स हैज आउटपरफॉर्म, राइट? सो ऑलमोस्ट 72% ऑफ द टाइम इट हैज आउटपरफॉर्म the parent index. So these returns have come, but they have also come reasonably consistently. We are not saying at all कि ये हमेशा non-stop इसका outperformance चलेगा. There will definitely be periods of underperformance. वो benchmark को trail करने की, if it's happened in the past, it can happen again. But message ये है कि historically the strong returns have been fairly consistent. When we look at it by financial year. And last slide, on performance, this is taking a more holistic view. This is the rolling returns, right? So this slide is also very important for investors to understand because इसमें दो चीजें बहुत बहुत साफ दिखाई दे रहे हैं. One is, as you would have seen by now, the rolling returns on average are higher for the momentum index compared to the other two indices, right? So on average, from 2005 up till Jan 24, if you had bought and held the index for a 3-year period, on average आपका almost 18% का return आता है, right? Compared to 12% historically for the Nifty 200. So here on any time frame, 1, 3, 5, 10, you on average, right, have made higher than Nifty 200. But इसमें एक चीज, right, is very important for you to keep in mind, and ये maybe risks के section में भी हम discuss करेंगे, but please keep in mind कि इस strategy का volatility भी higher है, right? याद रखो इसमें सिर्फ 30 स्टॉक है and these 30 stocks have already they are momentum names. तो जब trend ठीक से चल रहा है, the strategy does well. But कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कि the trend does reverse, and by the time the portfolio adjusts, उसमें sometimes some months go by, right, before the next review happens. तो उस period में काफी volatility आप experience कर सकते हैं. That is why you are seeing, all these numbers are kind of in the red, which shows that on average the standard deviation, right, जिसको volatility हम standard deviation बोलते हैं, momentum index का standard deviation is higher than 250. So the returns are higher, but प्लीज ये भी समझो कि इट इज कमिंग विथ हायर रिस्क. ओवरऑल रिटर्न रिस्क इज स्टिल इन फेवर ऑफ मोमेंटम, बट एज एन इन्वेस्टर आपको उतना एलोकेट करना चाहिए है जिससे आप खुद आपके रिस्क टॉलरेंस के साथ कंफर्ट है, बिकॉज हिस्टोरिकली द रिटर्न्स आर बेटर, बट ज्यादा वॉलेटिलिटी भी रहा है. सो आई जस्ट वांटेड टू मेक दैट इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट. And yeah, Vishu, now any further questions you may have, please.
Right. So you already sir touched upon कि थोड़ा सा तो risk था कि volatility, since this is a momentum fund, a momentum investing based fund, तो थोड़ा सा volatility का तो issue, of course you have to bear that risk. इसके अलावा are there any other risks? And second part to that question is, which investor profile do you think is this best suited for? किसको इसमें invest करना चाहिए is my question, based on the risks that are involved.
ठीक है. So let's take your second question first. See, because we mentioned it is more volatile than the normal, like Nifty 200, Nifty 50, it is suitable for investors who have high volatility tolerance. So will not give like ekdam personal recommendations per se, but generally, right, what we sort of observe is कि अगर आपका portfolio is generally has more of, let's say, Nifty 200, Nifty 50, broad market indices, तो फिर that is called your core allocation. Strategies like Nifty 200, Momentum 30, ऐसे type के index we call them satellite allocation. मतलब कि अपना core holding से you will invest less in it. So again, why? Because the aim of this, right, momentum type ऐसे index, the aim of this is to outperform the benchmark, which is Nifty 200. On average, it has managed to do this historically. But again, there are no guarantees of this going forward. So once you have your basic sort of asset allocation, your basic equity allocation set up, within that, आप अपने sort of large cap Nifty 200, Nifty 50, ऐसे का type of indices का allocation करने के बाद, then you should look at these momentum kind of indices, which will hopefully outperform the benchmark over the long run. So that's generally who it's suitable for, and how to think of it given your own personal risk tolerance, how you should think of allocating your investments to it. Second question कि इसमें risks क्या है, तो हमने actually धीरे धीरे already we have touched upon, but it's very important to review. So one risk is कि जैसे see momentum का fundamental idea ये है कि like I said, अगर stock बढ़ा है, the tendency is for it to further increase, right? But this will not happen forever. कभी ना कभी stocks, even if they've gone up a lot, they take a breather, right? तो टेक्निकल टर्म्स में हम इसको ट्रेंड रिवर्सल बोलते हैं. वेरी सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी, जो ट्रेंड था वो रिवर्स हो गया. सो एवरी नाउ एंड देन मार्केट लीडरशिप चेंजेस. जब ये ट्रेंड रिवर्सल्स आते हैं, राइट, देन द स्ट्रैटेजी कैन अंडर परफॉर्म इन दैट पीरियड, because what happens is कि then it needs maybe 1, 2, 3 kind of reviews for it to adjust. So जो जिनका अभी ट्रेंड रिवर्स हुआ है, जिनका उनका मोमेंटम खराब हो जाएगा, धीरे धीरे उनको निकाले जाएंगे और न्यू लीडर्स को लिए जाएंगे, राइट? सो दैट प्रोसेस it is not instant, it takes some time, and during that time there can be underperformance of this strategy versus the broad market. So that is definitely one thing to keep an eye out for in the risk factor. Second is कि यहाँ पे sectoral composition can be it can get quite concentrated and different from the benchmark. We were just हमने पहले स्लाइड्स में भी जब हम बात कर रहे थे, we saw कि अभी let's say capital goods, healthcare, auto, उसमें काफी ज्यादा overweight है, and बाकियों में अभी underweight है. So again, this is a feature, it's not a bug, because in sectors में अभी momentum है, that is why you have those weights. But it's worth noting कि again, because the sector concentration can be high, if that sector does well, it's great. If there is a pullback or some kind of reversal, so then again it can hurt in the short term. So those are the sort of main risks. Of course, we always recommend reading the scheme information documents carefully for all the risks. But by and large, this is what an investor has to be mindful of. Ki when the trend is reversing, there can be underperformance. Sectoral risk is good when the market is rising, but it can hurt on the way down. But like I said, important thing is कि आपको याद रखना है the dynamism of the strategy. The longer you hold it for, the greater the chance कि वो अपने आप को it will reallocate itself to the future winners, and then it will ride the next set of trends up, right? So that's why always, if you're considering a momentum strategy, you have to have with all equities, but also very much with momentum, you have to keep a long in lamba investment horizon, 3 to 5 years के साथ आपको चलना चाहिए, because in the long run is when we see that the outperformance has the best chance of materializing. So I think ये सब points it's important for investors to keep in mind when they decide to allocate.
Right. Right. So my next question, sir, would be more of why HDFC mutual fund.
Okay. So HDFC mutual fund, I think we can just mention, अपने passives. So passive side पे भी, we are obviously active side पे we are well known, but passive side पे भी we are actually one of the oldest players in the space. We have experience in index funds for over 20 years because our Sensex and Nifty index funds were launched back in early 2000. So because we have been, one of the first few players in the space, we have a deep understanding of how passives work, our operations, fund management, risk management, all that is sort of very well refined, and that helps keeping the tracking error and tracking difference low, right? So one is that we have a lot of experience in the space, and second is that we also have a very wide product range. So I mentioned some of our equity index funds, Nifty Sensex. We are also very big in commodity ETFs like gold, silver, and at the moment we also have India's only small cap ETF, right? So this is basically passives are an area which we also spend a lot of time and attention on. We have a big product range, and most importantly, we've been in this business for a long time. So end result is that you get sort of good outcomes for the investor in terms of very good tracking error and a difference compared to our peers as well. So that's, I would say, some very strong reasons to invest in a trusted brand like ours as HDFC mutual fund.
Right. That kind of answers it. Next, sir, मतलब the money question is कि कैसे करना है? If I want to go about it, what are the next steps for me?
So first, I would mention कि अभी the NFO for this HDFC Nifty 200 Momentum 30 Index Fund, it is already started. वो 23rd Feb तक शुरू है. So you have up till 23rd Feb to go ahead, and invest. The minimum investment amount is ₹100. So, even if you just want to start now and धीरे-धीरे you want to do an SIP or top up later, that option is very much available. So I believe, through the portal itself, you will be able to access the NFO link, and then you'll be able to, follow the remaining steps and enter your allocation amount. Once that is received by us, once the NFO ends on 23rd, then the funds will be collected and deployed by the fund manager, and accordingly, you will get the units. So at this stage, important thing is just to remember कि 23rd को ये NFO बंद होगा. So उसके पहले through the website, you will be able to invest in this NFO.
Right. And just a couple more questions, sir. Is there any lock-in period in this?
नहीं. So slide पे भी we have, just to give investors the clarity, there is no entry or exit load. So neither a lock-in period and nor an amount, to exit. You can exit when you want. There is no extra charge for that.
Right. Awesome. Great. So, given the paucity of time, one final concluding piece of advice for our viewers, sir.
हाँ जी. So would just say कि just quickly to summarize, momentum investing, like जैसे हम real life में trends follow करते हैं, momentum investing is very similar, except that you are following trends within the stock market, right? So you're looking at stocks with good, strong past returns, with the hope that these high momentum stocks will keep outperforming. And why would you invest in this kind of strategy? So one is, as we have seen, the growth potential has been there historically. The strategy, because it's able to readjust to changing market conditions and be with the winners, it has significantly outperformed the Nifty 200 and Nifty 50 over rolling returns, calendar, financial year wise, and even on a point to point basis. So there is definitely growth potential we've seen historically, and if the strategy keeps outperforming as well, then there's growth potential for the future as well, right? Second is that it's rules based and dynamic, and transparent, which means कि as an investor, you just have to allocate your money to the fund. उसके बाद it's up to the fund manager to invest the money, keep up with the same stocks, the same weights, corporate actions, all these daily let's say troubles or difficulties with investing. It's completely taken out of the picture. Our fund manager is handling all of that for you. You just have to decide and invest in the fund. Rest is all taken care of. Tracking the index, all that work is done by our fund manager. Third point is it's a dynamic strategy. As I said many times, it is automatically through time readjusting itself to the stocks which have displayed strong recent momentum. So in that way, it's sort of sector agnostic, market cap agnostic. It's just looking for high momentum stocks under the assumption that this momentum will continue. And finally, at lower cost, because it's an index fund, it's generally the expense ratios are quite competitive. So you are able to get access to this strategy at a sort of reasonable TER. And last thing, risks. So while I've mentioned that momentum is kind of based on the premise कि जो trend है वो trend चलता जाएगा, that is not always the case. It is not experienced every single sort of time. कभी-कभी trends reverse होते हैं. There are periods of underperformance, periods of volatility, but आपको just you have to have you have to just see that the strategy itself is adjusting to these changing market conditions. It takes time, but you need to be prepared for the occasional volatility that a strategy like this can give. With the given the return potential, it is also balanced. You need to balance it with a higher sort of volatility as well. So yeah. I think conclusion may that's how I would conclude.
This was amazing, sir. Thank you so much for your time, for explaining us and taking us through this, sir.
Not at all. Thank you, Vishu. Thank you.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risk. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to never miss an update from ICICI Direct.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.